as the general manager of the Sport Association in Spain, what do you think about a certain helmsman, like maybe the DG, Director General, or President, at the Sports Commission of a certain country or state or city, saying that he doesn't need, I mean, when I say he, I mean the Sports Commission doesn't need a tourism board. What do you think about such statements?
I think that there is a lack of training in regarding sports and the link to tourism. There is not enough, I would say, knowledge. I could say there is not, we haven't have enough knowledge. I would say knowledge, but it's not knowledge. Maybe because in Spain, tourism is really good. It's really big. I mean, we have to fight. I would say fight, but fight is not really a good word. But we have to fight against also is not good because it's against. But we have to put our effort to make our best effort to be understood by the powerful world of tourism, which in Spain is really big. The 3S concept, which means sand, sun, and I mean the sun and sorry, and sea, the tourists from the sea, the sun of the beach, and the sun shining every day here in Spain. We have to move forward to the 3L concept, which means landscape, leisure, and learning. That is really something which is absolutely qualitative. It means to move from quantitative perspective to a qualitative point of view. And this is really difficult in consolidated places where there is a good balance between offer and demand. But the people or territories who want to put their territory in the map and who want to settle some opportunities to develop has to start from this qualitative point of view. I mean, as a general director of our entity, what we have done is something so simple, which means let's take into account what the territory needs and let's offer them something that they can also capitalize. And also we have, for instance, we have developed one experience that is going to be held in 1 year, which is called the Games of the Water Games, which means that 10 national sport federations are working together under our umbrella in organizing sport activities around the water, around the sea. We are talking about fishing, motor nautic. We are talking about subaquatic activities. We are talking about sailing, kayak, rowing, and all these modalities. So we have to put forward and put the efforts in looking for synergies. That's the 2 points. Look for synergies and give a step forward to work on a more qualitative way.
Prince, I think that's a really interesting question that you posed. So, and what Fabian says is right. Looking for those synergies. If you take the context of why, so if we go back to your initial question that you posed, so a sports commissioner perhaps doesn't want a tourism board overseeing a specific strategy, perhaps. So in that instance, it could aid decision making. So if you wanted to make a decision on about what was going to happen at a local level, it doesn't have to go through multiple partners if you only have that commissioner there. However, if you have a dedicated Ministry of Tourism or a local destination management organisation who are therefore implementing and actually coming up with plans for how they're going to develop sports tourism activities, you then have the opportunity for collaboration on the ground with local enterprises, other business groups, and that's why you tend to find a lot of even very well-known destinations have those destination authorities, but also the ones that aren't so well known, and it may be because they aren't as well built out that they're not unable to build the strategy properly for that destination. So if you take the case from the UK, so there's multiple destination management authorities responsible for different regions in England, and that is a case for a lot of other destinations as well. And this brings with it a wealth of experience and understanding of what's happening on the ground, which if you have a sole sports commissioner who's overseeing all of this, they won't necessarily have an understanding of what the locals want. And that can obviously cause issues with it as well. And this seems to be the case for a lot of larger scale of events. Is we have a ministry who's dedicated for developing tourism initiatives in relation to the sports that are going on, but they're not necessarily coordinated at a local level. They're coordinated from the city government, and they seem to think, well, we have the participation of locals, where if you speak to locals that have had these events, they simply don't, and they're not involved in the decision making around these activities either. So having a localized tourism body brings with it the additional synergies, collaboration between businesses and people.
Fantastic. Now, I'm still going to dwell more on that question. That's some question. And this time, permit me to go. Lou Mengsol, if you can hear me, kindly unmute yourself. Can you hear me? Hello, Lou. Okay, maybe I'll come back to you later. So, Paulo,
Yes.
What do you think is the best approach in brokering collaboration between the tourism board and the sport ministry or commission? What's the best approach in terms of collaboration?
I think that in most cases, tourism is not looking yet at sports as a product, as a destination product to promote the destination. In many cases, tourism doesn't really see it. Tourism has been used to promoting, it's, like Fabian said, the sun, the ocean, the sea, or eventually the snow. And that's the product they know, and that's the product they work with, and the product that also the agencies are used to working with and to selling. So I don't think they are seeing what's happening and the influence that sports is having and the movement of people and sports tourism, the way it has grown, an active lifestyle. When I talk about sports, I mean, it can be training camps, it can be people that go hiking, it can be golfing on vacation. So it has a major, major impact on the economy. Now, when you talk about smaller regions, it might happen that the region has a different idea and they don't really want those big events to come and disrupt their way of living. And then maybe, like Seth were saying, local events, it's something that makes more sense to them and also contributes to the local economy and puts it to move. Now, when we're using sports as a destination to product to promote a region and to bring people from overseas and to bring revenue, generate revenue, and generate a product that the region can use to promote itself in the future, to make it a brand event for the region. I think it's crucial that they work together. One of the first approaches that we do is we talk to the tourism boards and explain them what we do with the event, the promotion, and the long-term plan to attract people to the region and make the region be known as a hub for a special event. Not just the event itself, but after that, it can generate training camps and other situations along the year that's going to keep revenue coming and keep the event coming back. But again, it's important that the destination and the tourism board welcome the event and understand the event as a brand event to the region, and that's what they want to have there. So the first approach really in our case is to show the tourism this aspect of it. We invest a lot in foreign participation. Anywhere we go, any event we organize, we invest a lot in bringing people from overseas. But I think it's really important to have a combination of both people coming from overseas and local people to get them engaged and motivated about the event they're welcoming into their region. So I think it's really essential to work with both, obviously, the sports entities and the tourism entity.
Lou, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You are you are the president of U.S. Sports Congress, correct?
Correct.
Now, can you please take us through how U.S. is a major sports destination in the world? Um, the NFL is a big deal. Super Bowl is one of the biggest deals in the world when it comes to sporting events and the razzmatazz, the footfalls, and all that comes with it. Now, take us through um, the approach, the US approach towards synergy between sports, the sports commissions, or the sports congress, and the tourism board or ministry.
Yeah. When people talk about sports in the U.S., they talk about some of these absolutely mammoth events like the Super Bowl or our collegiate Final Four basketball championships or some of these other events, the Kentucky Derby even. I think the real, quite honestly, while people focus on those and those events create a tremendous marketing buzz, what is the real engine of driving sports tourism in the United States is amateur athletics that happen every single day, whether that's on a recreational level or a competitive level. They tend to appeal to a wider group of people that doesn't just happen once a year, it's happening every single day in every single community. And therefore, while some of those events are obviously much, much smaller, they provide a greater fuel for the overall sports tourism engine. I've been listening to everybody talk about the relationships between tourism boards, whether those are CVBs, especially in our country, and sports commissions and that sort of thing. One of the things that we're focusing on this year through the U.S. Sports Congress is we've added a brand new event called the Economic Development and Sports Tourism Summit. And the reason we did that is what the pandemic has taught us, or what the pandemic has provided to us in terms of a sports tourism reset, is there in this country is a greater appreciation of what sports tourism does for and contributes to the overall tourism product, and what it contributes to the communities on a health and wellness level, on an active lifestyle level, on a economic development level, all of these different things going in. And one of the things we're focusing on is the communication piece, which I think is at the heart of what everybody is talking about here today, is how do we get other people to recognize? I mean, quite honestly, pre-pandemic in the US, sports tourism and sports events, outside of the big ones that you mentioned, kind of were the redheaded stepchild of tourism. Sometimes they were a little bit lower rated business when you talk about the tourism piece. You know, traveling families, traveling teams, you know, we're looking at a value for when they traveled. And it wasn't the business traveler. The business traveler, which when the economy was good, was paying more money for overnight stays and would pay a premium for air travel and those sorts of things. Now all of a sudden sports is coming roaring back after the pandemic, and it is positioned as the spotlight is on sports tourism in this country, because it is the one tourism driver. As business has kind of taken this back seat, sports tourism is now this great driver and is starting to lead the economy back. So that's really what we're focused on, is communicating with all of our community stakeholders through tourism what a great benefit it is to have these sports events and how they can continue throughout the year. You know, economy is still coming back, but we want to make sure that sports is in a position to continue to be at the forefront of things. You know, there'll always be ebb and flows in the economy, but sports events and sport tourism is a great way to build that base business you can always count on. Those families are going to travel to sports tournaments. It will be there. The question then is, how do we keep putting fuel in that engine to make sure that sports continues? And it's the conversation. It's the conversation between sports commissions and the tourism entities. And maybe more importantly, it's the conversation between sports tourism and the municipalities, the governments, the cities, the states, the federal government, how we're contributing something to this too, so they recognize there's a great opportunity here to keep this going. So that's really what kind of we're focused on, is how are we creating these channels with the opportunity that the pandemic has provided in terms of being a reset. People are paying attention, they're dialed in, they're listening. Now is the time to tell them about our message, the message you all have talked about in terms of those healthy lifestyles and things. And while they're listening, the time is now to activate that.
Thank you very much, Lou. And there is one particular thing I picked from everything you said. You made sense throughout the entire your entire speech, but there's one particular thing I picked, and I'm going to ask Professor Professor Seth. I'm going to ask you, how do we keep? How does a destination? How does a destination keep sports tourism going year round, even when there are very few or no sporting events?
Yeah, so I think some of the points that Lou alluded to just are very pertinent to this situation. I think for starters, for going back to what Pablo was talking about, is finding those sports that actually are the right fit for those locations. So as much as it's good having those regular sporting events or sports that are coming to those places, firstly, it's seeing, well, does this fit into what we want from a destination, what the locals want? So in terms of going back to talking about, is it going to be disruptive for locals that are there? And with the local, and Lou's right, with the more localized events, more regular, more frequent events, populations get used to those events. So the regular athletics meets that take place, the regular triathlons, those types of events that happen regularly all year round, and really we get used to it. So I think it's really having an understanding of what the locals want, but actually there are lots of small-scale event organisers out there that are looking to have these events. So I think it's really a joined-up piece between the local government, the city government, whoever it may be, joining up with the destination management organisation, and actually what organisers are doing on the ground. And this may come from event organisers themselves, or it may actually come from the locals that are there as well. So I think that's where there needs to be particularly collaboration at a local level to say, well, look, what is happening here? And particularly with the fact that we've not had any events taken place at all during the whole pandemic, we're looking for a reset here. And the governments and local authorities are not really going to pursue the opportunity of having these major events because they're very costly. So it comes back down to these local sporting events. And I think it's all about having a real schedule of this is what's going to happen, this is what people are used to on the ground and is going to take place, but actually understanding of what people want. So in the areas that I'm living in, things are starting to come back again after COVID, where we're getting more local events emerging again. And as a result of that, you're seeing more conversations going on saying, well, look, we had this event at this time of the year last year. Well, we need something that's going to perhaps engage a local population or engage people who have not been perhaps thinking about their own personal fitness during this period. So it comes back to sports tourism provides these other benefits as well. Well-being, promoting things around accessibility, and actually getting people to think about the mental health and the physical well-being is an important part, an important driver of these events as well. So there's that piece around the public perceptions and actually thinking about people's individual needs that they want, that they're hoping to get out from these events, because it's not all about business. It's not all about the trade that comes along to these events. It may be about getting active again, or wanting to get people participating in a particular activity. So that's what I will say.
Okay.